Hi, I'm Lisa from Lori's Country Cottage. Welcome to How Tuesday. Today I'm going to show you how to use my new favorite tool, the Binding Eaze from Quilted Hearts. But before I do that, I'm going to show you a quick demo on how fast it is to put your binding strips together with the SewQ Laser. Let's get started. In case you haven't seen the SewQ Laser, what it is a laser that you attach to your sewing machine to help you line things up. I put a little piece of white paper towel here hoping you can see the laser. I have the laser adjusted so it's coming right down the middle of my presser foot, lined up with my needle, because that's where I need it to do binding. So I've got two binding strips. I don't cut my selvages off. First, I just make sure when I line them up, my selvages are hanging over so they're not in my seam allowance. And then all I have to do is line that corner up with my needle and then rotate this so that that laser line comes right through where these two pieces join. And then I just have to stitch, watching right here, and I will be stitching that perfect diagonal seam. And then all I have to do is flip for the next strip, grab my next strip that's going on, make sure they overlap because I'm going to trim those selvages off after. Line that up there, line this up here, and I'm off to the races. So my binding goes together really, really fast. All right, let's move over and see how that Binding Eaze works. All right, I've got my binding all prepped. My seams are pressed open and my dog ears cut off. This is 10 strips of binding. I'm doing a full-size quilt. So I've got my binding kind of laying so that it feeds off of the top. And the first thing you're going to do is just press the first 6 or 8 inches to get it started so that you can feed it through the guides on the silicone mat. Oh, you will also notice so the Binding Eaze is made of silicone, so it's iron safe, and that's the trick. Now I'm doing a lot of binding. My iron gets very hot and I'm on my wool mat. So I am going to put an extra layer of protection under the Binding Eaze. If I just do a small quilt or a little bit of binding, I don't bother with that. I just make sure to move my Binding Eaze all over my ironing mat. But I kind of want to show you how fast it goes, so I don't want to stop and do a bunch of adjusting. So you'll see I just slipped it under the first guide, and then we'll put it under the next guide. All right, so I put a pin halfway at 5 strips, and I thought it would be fun just to watch and see how fast it goes. Now, I'm also going to put on a glove because this goes so fast and my iron is so hot that my hand gets really hot because the binding is really hot. So all you're going to do is put your iron on the Binding Eaze silicone mat and feed the fabric through. I'm using my right hand to slowly guide it, kind of lining up those edges. But if you keep it against the bottom of the guide, you don't have to worry at all. There's my first seam and it just pops right over. And all I'm going to do is just keep feeding the fabric one kind of section at a time. I don't spend too much time on the right hand side lining it up. I'm just making sure it's folding kind of nicely. If you have your binding all crunched up on the right hand side, you have to stop and fiddle with it with a bit more. So just when you're laying out your binding, just kind of waffle it like I did, and then it feeds really nice. So you can see where if I was doing this just on my woolly felted mat, that I would want to make sure I'm moving my iron, and don't leave it on your woolly felted mat for this long. There is, like, you're using a silicone pad, but there still is a chance that you could scorch your mat. All right, that's halfway. So I'm going to take that off and we'll see how long that took. I'm going to finish the rest of my binding and then I'll be back. Well, my binding is all done. I took a quick look at the video and it took me 1 minute and 27 seconds to do half of my 10 strips. So you can do a queen size quilt in under 3 minutes. And my edges are lined up beautifully. I absolutely love it. Now, if you have some concerns because I didn't have steam on, I don't need to, I could go back and I could press this again with steam if I wanted to, but I don't find that necessary at all. My iron doesn't steam unless I hold the trigger, and I don't have 3 hands, so this got no steam. Keeping in mind that Lori doesn't even press her binding when she puts it on a quilt, so I'm fine with my binding like this. All I need to do now is wind my binding on my binding wheel and I'm ready to go. But I cleaned my sewing room last week and I've put my binding wheel in a very safe place, and I've looked high and low and I can't find it. I'll have to go again and see where I put it. What kind of safe place did I find? And I'll just put my binding on there and then I'm ready to put it on my quilt. Thanks for joining me for How Tuesday. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Binding Eaze tool. And I can assure you that was my #1 new tool for this year. I love it. It's a time saver and a game changer. Thanks for joining me.